Should probably wait for this light to be out of my face, but I'm just gonna lean back. All right, this video has been a long time coming. We are going to talk about fabric in depth. Everything you need to know about fabric, especially as a beginner. And this is episode 2 in my Learning to Sew series. So definitely this can be a standalone video if you only want to chat about fabric today. But if you want to watch the rest of the Learning to Sew series and episodes, episode 1 was all about sewing tools, including machines. So everything I recommend that you need to start sewing. And then today we're talking about fabric. And episode 3 is going to be about how to use your machine and serger. We'll do a little blip about sergers too. And then episode 4 is everything you need to know about sewing patterns. And I was going to put how to cut fabric in this episode too, but I don't think it's gonna fit. I think it would be pretty long if I put that in there. So we're going to do how to cut fabric in episode 4 with sewing patterns, because I think it goes along nicely with the different markings and ways to cut your fabric for a pattern. And then episode 5 is going to be like a beginner sewing project. So I think it's going to be a tote bag, but just something very simple. You don't need a pattern for it. It's just going to be rectangles and very easy construction. And then I think I'm also going to do a Q&A as like an episode 6, because I'm already getting questions that are a little bit like miscellaneous in the comments. So feel free to ask anything and I'll kind of do a little Q&A when the rest of the episodes are done. I was also thinking about doing maybe like a self-drafting guide, which I have done a video before on self-drafting, but maybe just a more like general self-drafting guide if you're not super interested in learning to sew from patterns, which self-drafting is how I learned to sew as well. So I feel like I have some knowledge to share around that. So this is going to be a very practical approach to fabric. Basically, anything you need to know about fabric to sew your own clothes specifically. We aren't going to go through like every type of fabric known to man, not only because I think that would just be super boring, but I also think that that amount of information, like taking all of that in, would not even be useful to you. So I'm going to walk you through what kind of fabrics I typically use and what I look for when I'm shopping for fabric, and what fabrics I think would be good for beginners to use when sewing clothes. And then once you know those basics, I think there's a lot to just be learned by trying different things out. So once we kind of walk through my like essential tips, then I feel like you can branch out at your own speed. So we're going to walk through some general fabric info and FAQs that I get all the time about fabric. And then we're going to do a little shop along, like an online fabric shopping session, because I feel like that's a valuable thing to take all the information I'm giving you and then show it to you practically how I would shop for fabric, which it's not like you have to twist my arm to get me to go fabric shopping. I'm not planning on buying anything, but you never know. I also want to mention that a lot of what we are going to talk about today is going to be skewed toward buying new fabric versus thrifted fabric, and that's mainly because of the educational things that we're walking through. It's just much easier to know like the types of fabric you're buying and the weight of the fabric and the drape of the fabric and all that stuff when you're looking at new fabric. But thrifting fabric is also a great option. And I know a lot of people love to thrift their fabric, and it is a great way to learn because you're not as worried about like messing up your nice fabric, right? So just as a general rule, if you want to thrift cheap fabric, bed sheets are probably your best bet. So keep that in mind, even though we're not going to be talking a ton about thrifting fabric in this video. I feel like that's a whole other skill that, to be honest, I don't really have the gift of being a blessed thrifter. Okay, let's get into the fabric knowledge. So the 3 main things I'm looking at when I'm looking at fabric for clothes is the content of the fabric, the weight of the fabric, and the width of the fabric. So most importantly, the content of the fabric. We're going to talk about that in depth. And I distinctly remember the first time I ever went fabric shopping. I went into a fabric store, which was Joann. If you're in the US, I feel like most major cities have a Joann Fabrics. I think there's like similar comparable stores other places. But I walked in and I was looking for fabric for a skirt. And what I seemed to notice straight away, 50% of the store seemed to be quilting cotton, which we'll talk about in a bit, but generally isn't used for making clothes, right? It wasn't like something that I wanted to use for the skirt that I was making. And then about 20% of the fabric was like fuzzy blanket fabric, like flannel or minky or just really like fluffy stuff also not great for my skirt. Then about 10% of it was like prom-like fabric, or if you were on like Project Runway, like silky, flowy, drapey wedding dress stuff that I didn't really want to use. And then there was 10% that was maybe like stretchy fabric. Think like kids leggings, right? Also not something I really wanted to use. And then there was a little bit of the store, maybe 5%, that was like upholstery fabric on those big rolls, you know, that you could make like couch cushions out of. And then the remaining 5% seemed to be like the usable apparel type fabrics that I was looking for. Like the fabrics that felt like the clothes that I already wore. So I was very confused because I thought, you know, surely this can't be the only fabric that I can use to make clothes in this whole store like full of fabric. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to expound on that little 5% or perceived 5% of fabric, because I have since discovered which of those fabrics are actually useful for the clothes I want to make and where are the best places to find them. So for me, 95% of the clothes I make, I'm using a lot of percentages today, but probably about 95% of the clothes I make are woven cottons and linens. So let's talk about cottons first. Like I said, there are a lot of cottons in the sewing world, and I would think the majority of them are quilting cottons. A lot of fabric stores cater to quilters, and that's probably for a reason, right? Like I'm sure there are more quilters than people making clothing, or at least there must be. I've lived in quite a few cities, and every time I move, try to explore the fabric stores near me naturally. And I swear almost all of them are specifically quilting shops and have a ton of quilting cottons, but not a lot of fabrics that I would use to make clothes. So basically what quilting cottons are, I have a couple examples. They're just like a very basic fabric. They're tightly woven and they're fairly stiff. Like they are cotton, but they're not very like drapey or flowy, right? It's just kind of like a fabric you would make a quilt out of. So you can find these lots of places, and you can certainly make clothes with them. I use quilting cottons often enough, but like I said, they are pretty stiff. They don't drape a ton. They're not like super duper flowy. And so for that reason, I don't love using them, because a lot of the time the clothes that I want to wear are not super stiff, but they're good for like quilted clothes. And sometimes they wash to be a little bit softer, but usually not much softer. So anyway, those are some quilting cottons. You can find those all over the place, but if you walk into a store and see a bunch of cottons that are like, I don't know how I would wear this or what I would sew with this, that's probably a quilting cotton. I'll also say quilting cottons are probably the easiest fabric to sew with. So if you're a beginner and you want to try sewing things, especially like I said, we're gonna make tote bags or like little zipper pouches or like iPad cases or Kindle cases, things like that. Quilting cottons would be great for those because they don't need to be super flowy or drapey, and they're very, very easy to sew with because of that tight weave. So that's quilting cottons. But the cottons that I typically use to sew, like I said, they're woven cotton still, but they oftentimes are listed as like shirtings. Like online, a lot of times the section of cottons I'm looking in will say like shirtings or yarn dyed cottons or hand woven cottons, or just certain like apparel online shops, which we'll get to later. They'll just be listed under like wovens. So this, for example, I found in a shirtings section. I don't know if you can really see, but it has a bit more drape to it, a bit more texture to it. And it is 100% cotton, but it's not really a quilting cotton. I don't know if you can see the light coming through there, but it has like a bit of a texture to it. And there are a lot of sub-genres of cotton, like twill and poplin and chambray. And we'll get into a lot of that when we actually do a shop along, because it's kind of hard to just verbally explain what all of those mean without kind of really looking at them. And I know there's so much info that I'm packing in here that it's kind of hard to absorb it when it's not practically. But another great thing to do is to look at the tags of your clothes. So I have, for example, I dug through my closet and I found 3 items of clothing that all say 100% cotton on the tag. So like this, for example, is like a jean shirt, right? And if you look at this side tag, it'll say on there 100% cotton. Can you read that? I don't know. So this is 100% cotton, but it's obviously a very different fabric to, for example, these overalls, which are probably a cotton twill, but the tag isn't gonna say like twill, right? And twill is just like the way it's woven, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, see here, that tag says 100% cotton as well. And then as like a third example, This is another like overshirt, striped shirt, but this is like clearly a shirting fabric, but it is also 100% cotton. See, there's that one. So looking at the tags on your clothes is very helpful, especially if you're trying to make a dress that's like similar to a dress you already have. Look at the tag of your dress and see like what kind of fabric it says it is. And also, if you're a beginner, I would recommend going to fabric stores specifically for educational purposes of reading the bolts of fabric to just get a feel for like what the different contents of fabric are. Bolts have a lot of valuable information, which we'll get to all the different pieces, but they always say, obviously, the content of the fabric. I forget to check that sometimes, and it has bitten me. So for example, this is a bolt of fabric. Typically when I have bolts, it's because I bought them at Joann and I asked them to like keep it on the cardboard bolt just for storage reasons because I buy a lot of fabric. But the top of the bolt will have information here. So this is telling you the content. So it says 100% cotton. And then there's also a bunch of information like the weight and the width of the fabric, which we'll kind of get to details of that in a minute. But reading the content of bolts is very helpful. One other thought about cottons. So generally, cottons are a really great material to use for a variety of patterns and projects. But I would try to avoid looser woven cottons like gauze or double gauze. And I actually don't have any gauze here. Oh wait, no, I do. One second. I have gauze. So this is a yellow double gauze. Double gauze just means there's 2 layers of it, even though it's still pretty thin. So this is a gauze. It's very much like baby swaddle blankets. I feel like it's gotten really popular to make clothes out of gauze, which I've made lots of gauze clothes. It's not like you can't make clothes out of gauze, but I would avoid it if you're a beginner, especially if you have pieces of your garment that you're making that are like small pieces of fabric. Like bindings are really, really tricky with gauze just because it's a looser weave, and so there's like more of a stretch and slipperiness to it. So as you're sewing it, it's harder to keep things structured. So like I said, especially with those smaller pieces of your pattern, those can be really tricky to handle in gauze. So that might be the only cotton that I would assuage you from. Is that the right word? All right, linen is another one that I use all the time. There's definitely less like subgenres of linen as far as I understand. So it's a little bit less overwhelming when you're looking at linens because basically all linens are good for clothing. But the only kind of tricky thing to navigate when looking for linen, especially online if you can't touch it, is how stiff or drapey is it? How like rough or scratchy is it? And how wrinkly does it get? And like I said, if you are buying it in person, that's not going to be an issue because you can just touch it, right? And kind of like feel all of those things. But if you're buying it online, you might just want to more carefully read the description to kind of get a feel of what kind of linen it is. I also love to buy linen in like a blended fabric, like a linen cotton blend. Love, big fan of that. So here's another bolt of fabric. This one is a cotton linen blend. So it's 90% cotton and 10% linen. And it's like this stripy, again, I think it's a shirting fabric. Yeah, it was probably in this shirting section. But because it's a cotton, it's like nice and flowy and drapey and whatever. It's not too like scratchy or stiff like some linen can be. But because it has linen in it, there is a good like kind of texture to it. Can you hear that? So yeah, linen cotton blends, I love. Those are great. Another example is this twill that I got that is another linen cotton blend. This one is 70% cotton, 30% linen, so it has even a bit more texture to it. And it's woven in that like twill pattern, which I probably should have researched. I feel like I just know it by looking at it, but a lot of like pants and jackets and things like that are twill. So there's that one. And then here's a linen that is 100% linen. So this one's a little bit wrinklier, and this one's been washed, like I've washed it too, and I only sort of ironed it. Actually, I may have not ironed it at all. So it's definitely a lot more wrinkly. But I personally like linen that does have a bit of wrinkle to it, because if most of the fabric on your body doesn't have any wrinkle to it, but there are wrinkles like where you sit, then those wrinkles are really obvious. But if you have a linen that's like a little bit wrinkly all over the place, then the wrinkles that appear from use are not quite as obvious. So there's that one. And then another blend that I love for linen is a linen rayon or linen viscose blend. So this is another shirt. I didn't make this. I bought it, I think, at Target. And this is like a nice sort of linen-y fabric, but it's kind of like soft and drapey. And that is because this is a linen rayon blend. You can see there. So rayon and viscose. I did a little bit of research, but rayon and viscose are made of the same ingredients. They have like the same properties. They're made from, if I'm remembering correctly, a like wood pulp or like a natural plant fiber. So the ingredients for rayon and viscose are the same, but I guess like the fiber structure, like one has a long fiber structure and one has a short fiber structure, is different. But generally I think they're used fairly interchangeably. So rayon and viscose are pretty like flowy and drapey. Like when it's blended with something like a linen or a cotton, it has a really nice like natural feel to it, but it is a bit drapier. But rayon and viscose by itself, I find to be pretty like almost too drapey. It's very slippery and flowy. And I don't tend to wear a ton of things that are like ultra drapey and flowy. So that could be a good fabric to use if you want something that's like that. But I love it in a blend, like a cotton rayon or linen rayon blend, love. For me, anywhere from like 10% to like 55 or 60% viscose is like the sweet spot. And then any more than that, for me, tends to be a little bit too slippery. I did find one example in my closet. So this is like a flowy dress. Again, I didn't make this. It's like cute and whatever, but the fabric is pretty, like I said, slippery. This one is 65% rayon and 35% polyester. The main dress is, there's also like a lining in it that is 100% polyester, or sorry, 95% polyester and 5% spandex. So polyester is a different fabric. It's not the same thing as rayon or viscose. And honestly, I would avoid polyester. I kind of think of it as like the cheap suit material, or yeah, just like that kind of gross flowy drapey fabric. And I researched this one because I wasn't 100% positive, but polyester is a fully synthetic fabric. So viscose and rayon are semi-synthetic. Polyester is fully synthetic and it's made from petroleum-based chemicals. And I know that some people are like super duper against polyester for like environmentally moral reasons. And I guess I definitely have a tinge of that as well. I for sure could do more research about the specifics, but just from like the brief bit that I was like, what exactly is polyester? I was looking into it. It's a pretty clear consensus that it's like not great for the earth. So there's that aspect, but my aversions to it also come a lot from just like the feel of the fabric and using the fabric, and also how it washes too. I've had some polyester stuff wash really weird. I just can't really remember ever using polyester and having it be like, oh yeah, that was a great time. So that's kind of my 2 cents on polyester. There are just so many better fabrics that are easy to find, so it's pretty simple to avoid. Okay, one other fabric I want to talk about. Where's my example? The last fabric that I want to talk about is knit cotton. So think like t-shirts or rib knit tank tops or like stretchy dresses or kids leggings, things like that are knit cotton. So they're still like, a lot of them are still 100% cotton, just the way that the fabric is made is knit instead of woven. So typically knit cottons are stretchy. This is a t-shirt. I think it's from Madewell. Yes. And it is, actually, I didn't check the tag on this. I'm guessing it's 100% cotton. It is. There's the tag so you can fact check me. But yes, so I honestly don't use a ton of knit cottons just because the things that I like to sew are generally designed for woven fabrics. But I need to get into it. Making a cute like t-shirt or tank top could be fun. So there are like rib knits, pointelle knits, jersey knits, French terry knits. There's like a lot of different kinds of knits, and most of those are just like the look of them. They're usually cotton. Sometimes they're blended with like spandex or bamboo or modal or different things like that. You can just read like descriptions or, you know, like I said, go into fabric stores and feel things to kind of get an idea of what the different knit fabrics are. But I also think as a beginner, you probably wouldn't be using a ton of knits, but I don't know, maybe you would. One fabric store that really comes to mind for knit fabrics is Lyrical Fabrics, and I'll link all the ones I talk about in the description, but Lyrical Fabrics has a lot of really great knit fabric options. So you can go look through their website and kind of get an idea of what all the different kinds are. Okay, that covers content for the most part. I feel like all the things that we went through is pretty much what you need to know to start sewing your own clothes. And like I said, there are a million other kinds of fabric, but not really ones that I pretty much ever use. And if you start with the stuff that we did talk about, you can branch out to that stuff in your own time. So fabric weight is the other thing that I look at a ton when buying fabric. So usually it's listed in ounces or grams, and it's technically ounces per square yard or grams per square meter. So I know ounces better because I'm in the US, but I tried to look up if there was like a strict guide to what is like lightweight, midweight, heavyweight. It looks like it's kind of up for interpretation. So for me personally, I feel like lightweight fabrics are like 2 to 4 ounces per square yard. And that's like really breezy, lightweight stuff. And then usually like 5 to 8 ounces is midweight. And that stuff could be like dresses and things like that, but also getting into pants and jackets and things like that. And then anything that's like 9 ounce or above is pretty heavyweight. That's more, yeah, like pants and structured items of clothing. So sometimes when I'm looking at fabric online, I will be having a project in mind, like, oh, I want to make a dress out of that or whatever. Like it looks like it would be a good dress fabric, and then you go into the weight and you see that it's 10 ounces and it's like, oh, that's for like cargo pants. That won't be flowy and lightweight enough to be a dress, or at least not the flowy lightweight dress that I was imagining. So definitely pay attention to weights. And I'll show you this bolt again. So I wanted to get denim at the fabric store to just have on hand for lightweight denim projects. Like if I wanted to make like a denim overshirt or a denim quilted vest, which I think I'm going to be making soon, or even like a denim dress or a denim skirt or something like that. I don't want like a thick, heavy denim that I might use for overalls. So I liked this color of the denim, this like medium wash, but I specifically wanted to find a lighter weight denim. So this denim is 4 ounces. And when I was at the fabric store, there was a ton of different options up to like 12 ounce denim. And I specifically chose the 4 ounce one. Obviously I was also in person so I could feel it. But if I was shopping online for things like denim, super important to pay attention to the weight. Third most important thing that I pay attention to when shopping for fabric is the width of the bolt. So obviously when you're purchasing fabric, you're asking for like a certain cut of fabric. You buy it by the yard or by the meter, depending on where you are in the world. Because I'm in the US, I'll talk about yards. But let's say you're getting 3 yards of fabric, right? Not all bolts are made the same. Some come 44 inches wide, some are like 54 inches wide, some are 60 inches wide, and you'll have 3 yards, which is the same length, but if there's different widths, then you're getting a lot more or less fabric depending on how wide the fabric is. And when you're working from a pattern, the fabric requirements in the pattern will list like the width of fabric they're talking about. So again, let's pull up this trusty bolt of denim. This bolt is 57 inches wide. So it says on there width of the fabric. So that's pretty wide. Usually 44-inch fabric is quilting cottons, and apparel fabrics are wider than that. Usually between like 55 to 60 inches would be an apparel fabric. Although this striped bolt of fabric that I was showing you earlier, this one's for sure an apparel fabric. I mean, you could quilt with it, I guess, but this is the one that's like linen cotton blend. This one is 43 inches wide. So that's even narrower than most quilting cottons, which is a pretty narrow bolt of fabric. So keep that in mind when you're buying fabric as well, especially for ones that seem really expensive. Sometimes they're more expensive because they're super wide, or cheaper because they're super narrow. Like this fabric, full price was $13 a yard. I'm sure I got it cheaper than that. And this denim, which is much wider, was $21 a yard. Full price, again, I'm sure I got it cheaper than that. But that will kind of make a difference. FAQs that I get all the time when people are talking about fabric. I get asked a lot, how do I know what fabric to buy for what pattern I want to make? So if you're looking at a specific pattern, a lot of times it will say in the pattern, or at least good patterns will give you recommendations for what kind of pattern or what kind of fabric is recommended. Duh. But also a lot of it is common sense, if that's not too harsh. Like think through what type of garment you want to make, right? Like if you want to make a flowy dress, you would be looking for a fabric that is maybe like lightweight, has a lot of drape. You might want one that's like a Rayon or Viscose blend that has a little bit of, flowiness to it. So just like read descriptions of fabric and make sure that you're getting one that kind of matches the vibe that you're going for. Or like on the flip side, if you want to make a pair of overalls, you wouldn't want to get a lightweight viscose linen blend, right? You would want to get like a heavyweight 10-ounce twill, cotton twill, or something like that. But most importantly, my biggest piece of advice when choosing fabric for a pattern is to not overthink it. I think a lot of times people feel like if they choose a fabric that's not perfect, it's going to like ruin the whole thing. And I would say you'll probably pick something that's perfectly sufficient, especially with all of this knowledge we're going through. If you pick lightweight silk to make overalls with, yeah, that's on you, I guess. But if you choose a 9-ounce twill instead of a 10-ounce twill, that's probably gonna be fine. It's gonna work out for you. Do you see what I'm saying? But also think through the construction a little bit as well. Like we talked about with cottons, if there are like little finicky pieces to the pattern, like little bindings or little like zipper pulls or different things like that, if you're picking stretchier fabrics or like gauze, things with like a loose weave, that's gonna be trickier. So let's just walk through a couple of my patterns as examples. I have 4 patterns out currently. The lane pants, which is my pants pattern, woven cottons and linens are good for those. And really, you can choose a variety of weights. I think weights make the biggest difference there. And you can choose a variety of weights and it'll just give you a different look. Like I've made like a 4-ounce woven cotton pair of lane pants. And so they're like really loose and flowy, like kind of those Scandi pant vibe. And then I've also made a heavyweight 9-ounce cotton twill pair of lane pants. And those are like my structured cargo pants. And then another example is my ruby vest. That one is like a quilted vest. And since it's quilted, you could make a not quilted version, but usually it's quilted. Quilting cottons are great for the ruby vest because it's a quilted garment, right? You wouldn't really want anything super drapey or stretchy because as you're quilting the lines, that'll like pull the fabric. And especially because it has a binding around the edge, you don't want anything with a very like loose weave or stretchy or anything again. So there's that one. And then I have 2 dress patterns. I have my Sid tie dress that has like ties in the front and my skyline dress, and I think those are pretty similar. You want something that's maybe like a light or medium weight, has a bit of flow, has a bit of drape to it, but because there is a binding on it, I wouldn't really choose something that's super, again, loose weave or super stretchy, although you could do like a different, like a contrasting fabric. You could choose a quilting cotton just for the binding and then do the rest of the dress in like a viscose or something like that if you want something really drapey. So the more you sew, the more you learn about different fabrics and have experiences with different fabrics, and the easier it will be to kind of choose what is best or know what you want. But yeah, just don't stress about it. You're gonna be fine. And then the last FAQ that I want to talk about is washing your fabric. I get asked this all the time. Do I need to wash my fabric before I sew with it? The correct answer, and the answer I should tell you, is yes. That is the right answer. You should wash your fabrics after you get them before you sew with them. Do I always wash my fabric? No. It's probably like 90% of the time now. It used to be like 5% of the time because you go buy the fabric and then you just want to use it and I don't want to have to wait. But the reason is that all fabrics shrink at different rates and your fabric is going to shrink at least a little bit. And so if you make your clothes with it first and then wash your clothes after, you just don't know how much they're going to shrink and it could ruin your life / the project you just worked on, which feels life ruining. So yes, you should wash your fabrics. I'm not going to judge you if you skip it, but you are supposed to. And as far as how to wash them, on the bolts, it will say, I really should have just taken a picture of this bolt, but you can see on the bolt, it has washing instructions. It will tell you how to wash your different fabrics. Highly recommend taking pictures of the bolts as you're shopping so that you can remember information like that. If you buy online, a lot of times there will be tags, or there should be. The good fabric stores, they'll put tags on them that will say how to wash your fabric. There's little care instructions there. Now, I know that I'm more loosey-goosey about washing my fabrics than I should be, but I am just too lazy to like hand wash things or wash things separately from all the rest of my clothes or wash things on delicate or like hang stuff up to dry. I can't, guys. I just don't have the patience to do that stuff. So all of the clothes that I make and the fabric that I wash, I just run them on like my normal cycles. And because I use like woven cottons and linens, again, I'm using pretty safe fabrics, nothing bad ever really happens. So I should probably tell you to always wash things on delicate or always hand wash things or whatever. I'm certainly not going to judge you if you don't, because I definitely do not do those things. All right, we're gonna get into the part that I'm the most excited about, which is fabric shopping. So before, I'm going to like share my screen and literally shop for fabric and take you with me and show you the things that I'm looking for and how I read the descriptions and places that I shop and all of that stuff. Before I do that, I wanna give a couple of caveats. So first and foremost, new fabrics here. And first off, let's talk about price, because I know a lot of people are very price conscious, understandably. A huge question I get is, where do I find good fabrics that are cheap? That is a really hard question to answer. I feel like you might as well be looking for a unicorn, because if your budget is like $2 a yard, you're just not going to find new fabric in that price range. So there's kind of like 3 tiers of fabric spending that I perceive. The cheapest option is to thrift your fabric. I feel like you can get a bed sheet. Like I said, bed sheets are a great place to start. You can typically get a bed sheet for like $6 maybe at the thrift store, and that might be about 3 yards, just like depending. There's so many factors in this, depending on how big the bed sheet is and what's usable and if there's stains and all that stuff. So for this example, let's say you get a $6 bed sheet and that's 3 yards of fabric. That's about $2 a yard, okay? That's about as cheap as you're gonna find it. And then there's the middle of the road option that I feel like is Joann. I do shop there for sure. It's convenient and the prices are pretty good and everything's always on sale. There's always coupons for everything. They have like an app that you can like stack coupons and everything. So Joann is very reasonably priced in my opinion. I would say their fabric is anywhere from like $4 to $12 a yard after coupons. And then the third option is like the really nice fabric from the stores that I really, really love. And that's what we're going to walk through and shop through today. And I feel like those prices are typically anywhere from like $10 to $25 a yard. Sometimes they can be even a bit higher than that for like the really, really nice stuff, but I typically don't go over $25 a yard. Is like, that's a lot. And I try to avoid that, but sometimes I just fall in love with stuff when I can't help it. So if you are super price conscious and you really just need to buy cheap fabric, I feel like your options are thrifting things or doing like an 80-20 rule where 80% of the time you thrift stuff or buy things secondhand or cut up old clothes or whatever, and then 20% of the time you can like splurge on a couple nice fabrics. And that's been like the majority of my life, to be honest. I've definitely not had the means to buy super nice fabrics for basically the whole time that I've known how to sew. But for me, I also consider my time invested as well as my money invested. So I am not a person who has been gifted by the thrifting gods. I do try to go thrift sometimes. I hardly ever find anything. And if I spend a whole afternoon popping around to different thrift stores looking for things and come up with either 0 things or like maybe 1 thing that I sort of like but also mostly hate, to me that's a waste of my time and therefore my money as well. I would rather pay a little bit more and be guaranteed to find like amazing fabrics that I love, that I know I'm gonna be obsessed with the clothes I make, versus like wasting a whole day looking for something and like not really coming up with much. Some people have tons of luck and find amazing things. I've never really been one of those people. And also some people just like love going thrifting. I am also not really one of those people. There's also a big environmental aspect to this as well. It's not just about money, right? Like thrifting things, reusing things, that's probably more important to me than the actual like time and money aspect. I do feel like it's environmentally important to reuse things as well. And so I definitely try to. Otherwise, I would never thrift ever. I would just completely give up on it. But I do understand that like buying new fabric all the time is not the best way to go about it either. Anyway, we're getting in a little rabbit hole here. So we are going to do a little shop along. Like I said, I'm going to do 3 online fabric stores that I'm very familiar with and I feel like are very good examples to show you, but I'm going to put like a long list of great fabric stores in the description. A lot of them are online stores, but also have in-person locations, like wherever they're located. So I'm in Eugene, Oregon. It's like a medium size town. It's not huge, but not tiny. So we do have a couple fabric stores, but I've also lived, like I said, in a lot of cities, and most of the cities I've lived in do not have great local fabric stores. It's pretty much like Joann and then shopping online, and I think that's pretty normal. So instead of shopping in person at a fabric store that you probably don't have in your area, I'm going to show you how I shop online. So the 3 places that I'm going to look at are Blackbird first. That's probably my #1 example of a great online shopping experience. And then Fluid Drape is another one that actually is local to me. They don't have like a public retail shopping space, but I know the owner, and so I'm able to sometimes pop in, and she's actually, if you live local to me, which like what 1% of you, if that, maybe do, you can reach out to her and you can like find time to go to her fulfillment center. But she's great. She has online stuff. She does a really good job at descriptions, and you know, we'll get into all of that. So Fluid Drape is another one that's great that we'll walk through. And then the fabric store is located in Australia and New Zealand. I think they have locations both places, but their online experience is great as well, and they have a really good variety of things that I want to get into. So we're gonna shop at those 3 places, and then I ran out of time last night, so we are going to do a little bit of shopping today. So what I've decided to do is I have like 3 projects in mind that I'm going to sort of be shopping for. I felt like that was more helpful to think of like practical projects that I want to use these fabrics for. And they are sort of projects I've been thinking about making for fall for real. So hopefully that will kind of help the process. So the 3 things I am looking for. First of all, I want to make a ruby vest for the fall that's like oversized. And I think because it's reversible, I'm going to do one side like a lightweight denim and one side like a block print. And like I showed you, I do actually have a lightweight denim already, but we're just gonna pretend that I don't. So that's project #1. And then the second project, I want to make some lane pants in a cute like red gingham, because I keep seeing red gingham pants everywhere and I think they're so cute. So I have a pair of black gingham lane pants and blue gingham lane pants, and I wear them all the time. So having another color of them, it's like a quick, easy project, and I wear my lane pants basically daily in the fall. So hopefully we can find some of those. And then the third project, I want to make a skirt for the fall, which last fall I had one skirt and I wore it often. It was just like a plain white skirt. And then since then I've made a tutorial for it because it's super easy. It's a very easy beginner friendly project. I will link that one if you want to make your own skirt. And honestly, that would be a great one if it's like the first piece of clothing you ever make. That skirt would be super easy to follow. So I either want to find like a fall gingham-ish, plaid-ish skirt, or I may also shop for like white fabric. Even though I already have a white skirt, I feel like finding a good white skirt fabric could be a little bit tricky. So I'll kind of show you my process of how I might go about it. And also all of these like inspo ideas are saved on my Pinterest. I'm an avid Pinterest user. I feel like it's such a helpful tool. So I'll link my Pinterest in the description as well if you need ideas for your own projects, because it's been such a helpful tool for me to kind of keep all of the ideas of things I want to sew. Basically everything I pin is an idea of something I want to sew, not something I want to find and buy, right? So that's kind of where I brainstorm. So I'll link that if you want to follow me on Pinterest. Okay, so the 3 places that we're going to be looking for fabric: Blackbird, Fluid Drape, and the fabric store. We're gonna start at Blackbird because I feel like they do a really good job of describing fabrics and giving you all the tools you need to make good fabric buying decisions. So I think where I'm gonna start out is looking for a red gingham. So options here, usually when I'm shopping for fabric, I go by fabric type, which is the content that we talked about, right? I'm probably gonna want for this red gingham, these red gingham pants, I probably want either cotton or linen. Linen would be best because I want them to be comfy but have good texture to it, not too stiff, but I also don't want it to be like too plain of a weave, like a picnic tablecloth, right? I want it to have a little bit more to it than that. So I'm thinking a linen would probably be better. So wovens, that could be a linen. Yarn dyes, there's probably linen yarn dyes. I'm probably gonna go with wovens. So I could just click into wovens, which is, I think is what I'm going to do. I could also type in the search, like, actually, let's see if that brings anything up. I'm gonna type in red gingham. Okay, no worries. That's cute. Soft washed, striped soft washed linen. They might have another color. So they just have 2 colors here. I actually do really like this blue. That could be really cute lane pants. Or, you know the ruby vest I was talking about where I was thinking it could be denim, but I kind of like this like striped blue. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm looking at, just right now I've looked at the pictures. The picture to me looks enticing of something I might use as a ruby vest, right? Which is a quilted vest. So it looks like it's probably not very heavyweight. It doesn't look very stretchy, which is good. I don't want anything super stretchy or too loose of a weave because I don't want, again, those binding pieces to be tricky. So let's read kind of the description. Breathable, lightweight linen, versatility, easy wearing, can be used for warm weather makes and layering pieces. Ruby vest is a great layering piece. The most important thing to look at is this list of stats right here. So content 100% linen. That could be great. There is a part of me that worries, if it's 100% linen, is it going to be too stiff, you know? So that's something I want to pay attention to. The width, 55 centimeters, that's a nice like wide apparel width. The weight is 5 ounces, so that tells me that it's probably like on the lighter end of mid-weight. It's not going to be super structured or thick. Opacity, opaque, which is good to know that it's not see-through. That's something we'll pay more attention to when we're looking for like our white skirt fabric. Drape is soft. That's like on a scale from like soft to structured, right? So that means it's like nice and flowy. And then the other thing that Blackbird does so well is they have videos on a lot of their fabrics. So this is obviously a different colorway, but this is the same type of fabric. And it's helpful just to see them like handling the fabric. Yeah, so this looks perfect. This like drape and feel to it is exactly kind of what I'm picturing for my pants, or honestly for a ruby vest. One other thing I want to look at before I make my decision is under here, they have these expandable categories. Care instructions tells you how to like wash things, right? Which we kind of already talked about. And then my favorite category is we recommend. So this is where it tells you what patterns or project they would recommend this fabric for. So you can either just look at their list. So tops, shirts, relaxed fit pants, dresses, skirts, jumpsuits, great. So that sounds like exactly what I'm looking for. But then specifically they give you pattern recommendations. So let's see, let's click through a couple of these. Cute. Okay, so this is sort of like a flowy-ish dress, right? So I feel like this gives us information that it would be good for like this type of flowy dress. Wrap jumpsuit, that sounds cute. Oh, cute. Wait, this is so nice. Love. Okay, so see, these are helpful just to kind of get an idea of not only the projects that they would recommend, but also it's nice to just get inspired of patterns you might not know about and different like pattern design companies as well. That's a cute shirt. Okay, so there is that fabric. We won't spend that much time on all of the fabrics. This is just the first one we're looking at. But I feel like I have a good idea of what this fabric will be like, what kinds of things I could make it for. I feel like it would be a very cute ruby vest. I think it would be super cute lane pants. I could probably use it for dresses as well. Knowing my upcoming like design schedule, tentative schedule, I'm gonna be making some like kids clothes as well, like kids rompers and pants and dresses. I feel like this is gonna be a really versatile fabric. We really scored the jackpot here. So when I'm choosing how much to buy, for me, because I sew so much, I'm usually not buying one fabric for one exact specific project. Usually there's multiple things I can use it for. So I typically buy anywhere from like 2 to 8 yards of fabric, just depending on how many projects I think I'll be able to use it for. And it all gets used eventually. Obviously, like I have a closet back here with fabric and I have like a stash on hand, but none of it like goes to waste. And I'm also pretty mindful when I cut my fabric so that I'm using all my scraps. Oh, and it's on sale. $10 for, okay, $10 for a half yard. See, this one is like slightly more expensive. I don't want the amount that I'm choosing to scare you because this is my job, right? I make a lot of things, not wastefully though, like they definitely all get used. I often make things for other people. Like when I have to design my patterns, I have to make several of them to test out different things and work through construction pieces, make my tutorials, all that stuff. So I often make multiple of one thing, but a lot of times I will like recruit my sister or friends or whoever to make extra things for, so I don't have 20 of the same thing in my closet. Again, I'm probably buying more than most people would. I feel like I'll for sure use 6 yards of it. And you can also order swatches. I generally don't, because I feel like, especially with the shops that we're going to be looking at, I feel like I have a really good idea of what it's going to be like. But obviously as a beginner, ordering swatches could be really helpful. Like you could just place an order of like 20 swatches, and then once it gets to you, you can decide from there what you want to get. Okay, so I'll add that to my cart and may potentially buy it. We'll see. Okay, we didn't find a gingham. Let's do this. Let's go to wovens here. So these are gonna be all of their woven fabrics. I wanna look specifically at red. Okay, cute. So there's a bunch of other ways that you can filter your search. I think a lot of these are like solids. Oh, that's cute. Wait, I love that. I'm just gonna peek at it really quick. Okay, so this is a crinkle cotton, 44 inches, 2.4. Okay, so that's like super lightweight, semi-opaque. Because it's red, I don't think it would be see-through. I don't know that I have a project that I would really actively be using this for. Again, a different color, same fabric, same vibe. Cute. Okay, I need to get myself a crinkle cotton at some point. Maybe next spring. This would be a good like spring fabric. Okay, so a lot of these are solids. That's all the red wovens they have. I'm not seeing anything super gingham-y, so let's move on to something else. Maybe let's look at their denim. So denim would be a bottom weight. Oh wait, denim. Okay, here we go. We want a lightweight denim if I'm going to be using it for a vest, right? So what I'm going to do, I want it to be blue denim. I know that 13 ounce, 12 ounce, that's gonna be like really heavy structured denim. I know that I don't want that. Even 10 ounce is pretty heavyweight. 4 ounce denim shirting. Okay, no, this is exactly what I would be looking for. Perfect. Okay, so 100% cotton, 56 inches wide, 4.2. That is a pretty lightweight, medium weight fabric, especially for a denim. So I feel like that would work well for a vest, but then I know I wouldn't be getting extra of it. Like if I want to make overalls or a structured denim jacket or something like that, this wouldn't really be the fabric that I would want to get. So I'd probably only get enough to use for my ruby vest, which doesn't even take a lot of fabric. So I'd probably only get a couple yards of this one. Yeah, I feel like this is a good like lightweight denim. Yeah, like if it's good for like a dress. Oh wait, that could be cute. What if I made a denim dress? I could do that. Okay, anyways, I feel like we found a good denim there. Let's add maybe, I think I'm just gonna get it for my ruby vest. So again, I don't know that I'm necessarily buying this. Oh, and those are very similar, sort of, not really. Okay, moving on. I could spend forever doing this. I need to keep it going. So next I'm going to look for a white fabric for a white skirt. And probably what I would want is a cotton, possibly a linen, but I feel like a cotton is maybe a safer bet. So I'm gonna go in again to wovens. I'm gonna look at white. I don't want a print, I want a solid. Where would that be? Solids. Okay, and some of these are like creamish. I think I could do a cream. Okay, let's just click into a couple of these. Ooh, viscose poplin. Okay, let's look at this. So viscose poplin, that's probably going to be a cotton viscose blend. Should we see? Nope, it's 100% viscose. So, okay, this is good. That tells me that I probably don't want this one because I want, like, the drape is fluid, right? I want maybe a slightly more crisp structured drape to this skirt that I'm imagining. I think this is going to be too flowy. Yeah, I think a viscose blend could be good, but I think this is going to be too fluid of a drape. Okay, so let's go back. I'm not sure that that's kind of what I'm looking for. Cotton twill will probably be too like heavyweight. Breezy lightweight linen, that's probably too opaque. Semi-opaque, especially with a white fabric. Oh, and it's 100% linen. So yeah, you can see it has a bit more texture and like slubbiness to it. I think I'm worried about that being too see-through though with the white. See, even with the purple, you can see through it a bit. So I'm gonna go back. Go to cotton linen blend. That sounds nice. Oh, is that gonna be see-through? Okay, opacity says opaque. 55% cotton, 45%, 55% linen, 45% cotton. That could work. Wait, I think this actually might be a good one. See, it does have a bit of structure to it. Drape is crisp. Okay, so it's not like a structured drape, but it does have some stiffness to it, so it's not too flowy. Gathered skirts, okay, that could be helpful. I feel like I'd probably be good with this one. Yeah, I'd probably take a chance on it. So I think about 3 yards will be sufficient for a skirt. And in that tutorial video, I walk through how to figure out how many yards you need. We're probably good with Blackbird. Although maybe I want to look if they have any other, like yarn dyes might be nice for another skirt. Yeah, so like what's some like fall, okay, look, like this would be cute for a fallish skirt. That could be a cute, ooh, this could be a cute fall skirt. Okay, they have a lot of good like wovens. Let's look at like browns. That's really cute. I actually think I have a fat quarter of that one. Oh, I like that. Linen, cotton. Okay, let's just look at this one super quick and then we'll move on. Okay, so hand woven cotton, 100% cotton. Oh, it's super lightweight then. That's nice. Because if I'm doing a gathered skirt, I don't want it to be too structured and heavy, right? If you're doing the gathering. I wonder if the orangey brown is maybe like too bright. I might want something a little bit more muted. But no, that's really pretty. I like that a lot. Oh, look. I'm on here. Could be a cute ruby vest, to be honest. I think we're good with Blackbird. The other thing I wanted to mention with them is they offer pattern printing as well. So when you go to buy and print a pattern, we'll talk about this way more in the pattern episode if this is completely foreign to you. But when you're buying a pattern online, a PDF version of it, it comes in files that you need to print out yourself. So either you can print it at home on like standard printer paper and then piece together all of the pages into like a big sheet of paper, which is totally normal, and we will walk through how to do that. Or the pattern will come with a large format or A0 size file. And that is formatted to be printed on like a large, like think of like a big roll of paper that's A0 size. So there are places online that you can send that large format file away to be printed. You can also print them at like local copy shops or whatever. If you're ordering from Blackbird, you can order your fabric, and at the same time, you can upload your pattern files to them and have them print them out and have them shipped with your fabric, which is really nice. So they have lots of like tools like that, and you'll see with the other fabric shops that we look at as well. Fabric stores want to make this whole process as easy as possible for you. And also with all of the shops that we're going to talk about, they're super responsive to like emails and DMs and questions and all of that stuff. So, you know, I'm not sending you to like giant nameless, faceless places. All of these companies are run by like really amazing, nice humans who just want to help you out. Also, none of these shops are like paying me or sponsoring me to be in this tutorial. They're just genuinely the places that I shop with the most. Okay, so there's Blackbird. I feel like we found some good stuff. Not all of it we put in the cart. But hopefully that gives you kind of a general idea. We'll go through the other ones a little more quickly because I think you probably get the gist of it, but just to give you a couple other examples and things to compare against. So Fluid plus Drape, when I think of them, I think of a lot of really great colorful fabrics, and I know that they have a lot of good block prints, which on my ruby vest, I want one side of it to be denim and the other side to be like a cute, fun block print, so I can flip it around depending on the vibes I'm going for. So I'm going to go straight into their block prints. Oh, and they have some cute stuff. Okay, and see, they also have some fabrics that are quilted already. So for the ruby vest pattern, there are instructions to quilt it, but you could buy pre-quilted fabric. So for example, this fabric is pre-quilted, it's 100% cotton. Oh, it's pretty narrow, so that's something to consider. And it's 10 ounces, so this is helpful. Substantial, but lighter in weight than the quilted cotton jacquards. So because it's quilted, it is gonna be a little bit heftier, right? Because there's the fabric and the batting that is quilted together. So that's why it's a little bit heavier. And again, they provide some recommended patterns, which again, I'm on here. That's so flattering. But I want to quilt my own. So they have these really cute block printed strawberries right now. I actually just grabbed some the other day. So like this strawberry block print is from Fluid plus Drape. She might be out of it. I get the last bit. I feel like a strawberry ruby vest could be really cute. I'm such a neutrals person. I struggle with buying like bright colors, but this is so cute. Okay, so yeah, super lightweight. Block prints are going to be pretty lightweight, which is great. Okay, so that could be a possibility. I'm gonna throw a couple yards in my cart just in case. Oh yeah, and they have these tigers. I actually got some tigers recently as well. Oh, duh, there's that fabric. I'm so blind. Okay, yeah, I think this one could be really cute as a ruby vest as well. Oh, that's pretty. Fluid Drape does a good job of putting like example projects, pictures of them in the listings as well. So we'll put that in there. Those are a couple options for a ruby vest. Let's look. I don't know if they have a ton of ginghams. I'm just gonna search gingham and see what comes up. Oh, cute. Oh, they have like blog posts. That is helpful. Okay, I like this gingham. And this is a remnant. So basically what that means is there's bits left over on the end of the bolt. So oftentimes those are on sale. So yeah, okay, this is actually a good example. This is a normally $60 a yard linen. That's definitely higher up there on the price scale, but I wonder if it's, yes, this is Merchant and Mills brand, which is very, very nice fabric. So that would definitely be a splurge, but sometimes it's worth it. I don't know if I'm a pink person though. I feel like I'm looking more for red. That is really pretty though. And it looks like because it's a remnant, there's only 1.25 yards left, which wouldn't be enough for pants anyway. Okay, I just want to look to see if there's anything that could be good for like a fall skirt. So probably cotton. Let's look there. Okay, so some of the block prints that we saw. Ooh, linen and cotton twill. That could be cute. I think I'm gonna print those. So these are both solids. Those could be good lane pants though. Oh, see? Lane pants. Yeah, it would be. Those would be good lane pants. Maybe let's look at linen. Oh, cute. Okay, I actually have some of these strawberries too. This is like a linen rayon blend. So that is going to be like a nice like linen-y texture, but it's like nice and flowy. Oh, look, here's a linen, a white linen. Okay, so this is helpful. 100% European flax. The opacity is semi-opaque because of the color of it. So that's helpful because if I was going to make a skirt out of this, I probably wouldn't go with this specific fabric because it is semi-opaque. Also, this is a helpful note about the color. It's a warm cream. So if it's a bit on the like warmer yellowy side, sometimes that makes a difference for me depending on if I want like a bright, cool white or a warm white. So that's a helpful note. I feel like normally when I'm shopping for just like clothes, I don't read the descriptions that in depth, but fabric descriptions I definitely do. So there's Fluid Drape. We've poked around a bit in there. The last one I want to look at is the fabric store. When I think of the fabric store, I think of classic basics. They have lots of great solids and ginghams and stripes. I feel like that's usually what I think of when I think of them. So I'm gonna go to their categories. So you can see they have all of these different categories here. So probably either linen or cotton is what I want to be looking at. Linen gingham, we could start there. Maybe let's see if they have a red linen gingham. Doesn't look like red is in one of the colors I can filter for. These are cute colors. Oh, they don't even have that many right now. Interesting. I like this olive-ish color. That could be a really cute skirt for the fall. So let's see, 100% linen makes me wonder how soft it is. And it doesn't say like the drape, right? If it's soft or structured drape, but it is 4 ounces. So that tells me it's not super thick. So let's see in the description if it helps me decipher how soft it is. Earthy feel, subtle, naturally occurring slubs throughout. That's the other thing about linen that is a good thing and is to be expected. Linen, the texture of it has like slubs in it, which are the little like bumpy imperfections of linen. That's totally normal and great and wonderful. But yeah, that's good to know that there's some slubs in there. Non-stretch fabric, good for tops, dresses, loose fitting skirts, short trousers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I feel like this could be a good skirt though. It looks flowy enough. I have like a 5% hesitation that it might be stiffer than maybe I want for a flowy skirt, especially because it doesn't say specifically the drape of it and there's no video. Like a video would be super helpful. That could be a contender. So maybe I'll put 3 yards in there just to have it in the bank if I need. Okay, what else? Maybe let's look at cotton shirting. Okay, so like this is an example of a cotton that's not going to be like quilting cotton, right? Oh, that's cute. So this is a viscose. I wonder if it's a blend. Okay, 60% cotton, 37% viscose, 3% elastane. So Mainly cotton, a bit of viscose, so it's gonna have some drape to it. And then elastane is the same thing as spandex. So that just means it's a bit stretchy. 4 ounces, it's pretty lightweight. And then, okay, the stretch here, that's what percent it stretches widthwise and lengthwise. So that's helpful to know, especially if you're sewing with knits, which again, I don't do a ton of, but that's helpful to know that there is a bit of stretch to it. Oh, and it's woven in a poplin weave, so it has like a crispness to it as well. Interesting. I feel like this one would be very helpful to see a video of. Even though I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what it is, that could be a good one to have a video of. Okay, so because it has a bit of stretch to it, like originally when I clicked on it, I was thinking it could be the other side of my ruby vest that's like has a print, but because it has a bit of stretch to it, and it's like a little bit flowy, I feel like it maybe isn't the best contender for a ruby vest with like the quilting. It could probably still work, but I probably want something that doesn't really have stretch to it. Oh, this is cute. Oh, I like both of these. That could be a cute ruby vest too. Guys, I'm gonna end up making so many. Ooh, okay, a white poplin. So poplin is a little bit more structured. 100% cotton, 3 ounces, so it is pretty lightweight. Characterized by its closely woven threads. Crisp, structured, yet lightweight. So this is not going to be a very flowy white cotton. It's going to be more crisp, which might be nice for like some of the skirts I'm thinking about. I'm curious about how opaque it is. I almost feel like this one I'd want like a sample in or a swatch. That could be good. And optical white, that's like a really, really bright white. I'm gonna add it in just as an option. I might look at their denims as well. Cotton denim and chambray. Stretch cotton chambray. I don't really want anything super stretchy. 10 ounce is probably too thick. Oh, these are cute though. Okay, it doesn't look like there's like a light or medium wash denim, kind of like what I'm looking for, but that's fine. We found one at Blackbird. I could shop forever. So yeah, like I said, all of these fabric stores want to provide you with as much helpful information as possible. They want to make it easy for you. They want to give you confidence in buying fabrics, right? So I know it can be overwhelming, and fabric especially is something that is difficult to buy online because it's something that's so tactile and you feel like you need to be there in person to know what you're getting. But these places really do everything they can to make the process easy. There are a lot of fabric stores online that don't do that very well, but all the ones that I'm going to put in the description, including these 3, do a really great job of making it easy on you. So hopefully that was helpful and you feel a little bit more confident about buying fabric. I think my overall piece of advice to you would just be not to overthink it. I get a lot of questions about what fabrics to choose. And I really think, especially with everything we went through today, if you are kind of aware of all of this knowledge that we talked about, you can't mess it up too bad, in my opinion. And once you start using fabrics based on all the stuff we talked about today, then you can kind of start branching out to all of these other kinds of fabrics that we didn't cover, the millions of different kinds of textiles you can use that just aren't, I feel like, as common or beginner friendly or whatever. So don't feel scared to branch out. I feel like I just use the fabrics that I wear in my everyday life, right? The things I'm drawn toward are woven cottons and linens, so that's mostly what I use. And if you like to wear a lot of knits, then I'm sure that's mostly what you're going to use. Or if you like to wear a lot of prom dresses, then you're gonna buy a lot of polyester sparkly fabric. Next episode, we are going to talk about your machine. We're gonna walk through how to use it, what all of the pieces mean, a little bit about sergers as well. And then episode 4, we're going to be talking about patterns, which I'm very excited about. And in that episode, we are going to be talking about how to cut your fabric. I think it's just too much to include in this episode, but we will get to it. And then we'll start making some cute, really easy beginner projects. But I'm proud of you, and you guys are doing a great job, and hopefully this was somewhat educational for you. And I will see you next week.